John lived in a small town where the days melted into one another, a watercolor blur of gray skies and faded clapboard houses. Each morning before the sun breached the horizon, before the world remembered its noise, he rose in his creaking cottage, brewed coffee that smelled of earth and memory, and traced the same worn path to the factory, its hum a dull heartbeat against the silence. No one called John unhappy, but no one thought to ask. He carried his quiet like a shadow, an ache without a name, etched deeper with each passing year. His son, Michael, lived in the city, a world of glass towers and restless noise. Once a month he'd visit, parking his sleek car beside the cottage. They'd sit on the porch, coffee steaming between them, trading words about rain or gas prices, but never the weight John felt pressing beneath his ribs, never the silence between the silences. Then, one morning, as John passed the sagging fence near Maple Street, a red bird darted from the underbrush. It perched beside him, chirped 3 sharp notes, and vanished into the mist. He paused, brow furrowed. The next morning it returned, and again the day after. A sign, he murmured. Though of what, he couldn't say. That weekend, Michael arrived, his face taut with city strain. "You look worn out, Dad," he said, placing a hand on John's shoulder. "I suppose I am," John replied, eyes drifting toward the clouds. "Been thinking too much." "About what?" John hesitated. "Life, what's missing?" Michael frowned, but let it go, disappearing into the glow of his phone. The signs multiplied. At the grocery store, a girl with pigtails ran up and thrust a yellow flower into John's hand. "For you," she beamed, before skipping away. He stood still. The petals trembled against his calloused fingers, as if the flower wasn't offering beauty, but asking to be seen. Later, he found a tattered book on a park bench, The Simple Path, and a stranger passed with a grin that felt like a secret shared. "Have a wonderful day." It wasn't the words. It was the way they felt aimed at his soul. That evening, John lingered on the porch as the sun fell low. The sky bloomed with fire, orange bleeding into rose. The wind sighed through the pines, and for the first time in years, the world hushed. The bills, the factory drone, the lonely hum of evenings, gone. Only the light remained, cradling him in a silence that felt alive. A memory surfaced, a man standing in a forest, not naming the trees, not asking questions, just listening to the wind and belonging. A single word rose from his lips, soft as breath. Oneness. "You're different," Michael said, watching John across the rim of his coffee. "I've been savoring the small things," John said. "Sunsets, birds, just being." Michael raised an eyebrow. "Does that really change anything?" "It does for me." "I don't have time for that," Michael muttered. "Too much to do." John smiled faintly. "I used to think that too, until the silence got louder than the noise." Weeks later, in the park, John met an old man feeding pigeons, his hands steady, purposeful, as if tending something sacred. "Beautiful day, isn't it?" the man said, turning as if he'd been waiting. "It is," John replied, settling beside him. "We search so hard for meaning," the man said. "We forget what's already here." John's voice lowered. "I've felt empty, like something's gone, but I don't know what." The old man's eyes twinkled. "Ever watched a flower bloom?" he asked. "Not to label it, not to understand, just to see it." John shook his head. "No. Try it," the old man said. "You might find what's been waiting." That night, John sat in his backyard. A single flower grew by the fence, its petals curled like a secret unfolding. He watched, didn't name the colors, didn't ask why. He just let it be. And for the first time, so did he. The breeze moved it gently. The gold heart swayed in the dusk, and something inside him opened, not a thought, a presence, a knowing too deep for words. "I've been seeing the world again," John told Michael. "Like a child, like it's all new." Michael smiled politely. "Deadlines don't wait, Dad. I can't just sit around watching flowers." John nodded. "Maybe that's when it matters most." Time passed, as it always does, and one morning, John didn't wake up. No noise, no struggle, just a quiet breath, folding into forever. Michael returned for the funeral. Grief tangled with guilt. He wandered the house, found his father's journal, leather worn soft like skin. He opened it, and one passage met him like a whisper. "Today I watched a flower bloom. I didn't analyze it. I just let it exist. And somehow, that made space for me to exist too. I hope Michael finds this peace someday." Michael's throat tightened. That evening, he stepped into the backyard. The flowers still stood there, weathered but blooming. He sat and watched. His mind buzzed, emails, meetings, the noise of becoming someone. But slowly, the flower held his gaze, not demanding, just being. And in that stillness, he felt it too. The thread, the presence, the quiet that had waited all along. He stayed a few days longer, walked the paths John had walked, sat where the old man had once waited. Back in the city, the towers hadn't changed, but he had. He still worked, but each morning, he paused, listened to the birds, watched the sky unfold like a quiet poem, and when the noise returned, he'd find a flower. He'd sit, he'd watch, and it would watch him back. A silent mirror to the truth that had always been there, waiting.